The crossroads came sudden, the way most endings do. Caroline Brennan stood alone in December twilight. Velvet cloak heavy with gathering snow. Behind her, wheel tracks where her hired driver had fled paid off. Most likely, by her late husband's brother. Ahead, wilderness stretched dark and unforgiving. Between her gloved fingers, a compass spun uselessly. As lost as she was, the carriage wheel wasn't broken. It was cut. Someone wanted her stranded here, where cold could finish what greed had started. She whispered to the wind, to God, to no one, "I'm lost." A rider appeared on the ridge, silhouette against dying light. He sat his horse like a man who'd watched trouble before deciding whether to ride toward it or away. After a long moment, he came down slow. Grant McCoy dismounted without hurry. He checked the wheel, ran work-worn fingers over the deliberate cut, then straightened. His eyes gray as winter sky took in her fine clothes, the land deed poking from her bag. The way she held herself like someone who'd forgotten how to ask for help. "Can't fix this by dark, ma'am," he said. "Trail's no place for a woman alone come nightfall." "I don't know you," Caroline said, hating how small her voice sounded. "No, ma'am. But my children are waiting, and there's stew on. Everything else can wait till morning." Pride warred with fear. Snow thickened, temperature dropping fast. She'd spent 6 months in a mansion feeling nothing. Out here, cold was honest. "Just until dawn," she said. He offered his horse's reins. "Dawn's a long way off. Let's get you warm." She took them. He walked ahead, leading them both toward a light she couldn't yet see. Behind them, the broken carriage disappeared into white. The compass in her pocket stopped spinning. Grant's ranch was 3 rooms of weathered timber and honest smoke. The kind of place Caroline's late husband would have called primitive. The kind that smelled like home. 2 children waited inside a boy of 9 with his father's serious eyes. A girl of 6 with hope still unbroken. They stared at Caroline's fine dress, then at their father for permission to speak. He nodded. The girl curtsied. The boy pulled out a chair. "This is Tommy," Grant said, "and Lily Ann. Mind your manners." They served venison stew in wooden bowls, giving Caroline the largest portion. She realized they'd sacrificed their own shares. When had anyone last gone without, so she could have more? "Thank you," she whispered. Lily Ann smiled. Tommy studied her with the careful attention of children who'd learned to read adults for safety. The warmth made Caroline's fingers ache as feeling returned. She ate slowly, tasting real hunger for the first time in memory. Outside, wind howled. Inside, the fire held. Tommy reached for her bag to move it from the table. It tipped. Papers scattered the land deed, lawyers' letters, her husband's death certificate. Grant couldn't read the words, but he recognized trouble when it spilled across his table. "I'm sorry," Caroline said quickly, gathering papers with shaking hands. "My husband died 6 months ago. His brother claims I'm unfit to manage the estate. If I don't return with witnesses to my sound mind by Christmas, I lose everything." Grant poured coffee, set a cup before her. "Your husband leave you well off. He left me everything. Land, money, a big house." She stared into the cup. Everything but a reason to stay alive. The children went still. Grant's expression didn't change, but something softened in the set of his shoulders. "Out here, ma'am, we don't measure folks by what they own. We measure by what they do when tested." "I've never been tested," Caroline admitted. "Not really. You're being tested now." He gestured to the storm beyond the walls. "Storm's here for 3 days minimum. You stay. We'll figure the rest." Lily Ann slipped from her chair, returned with a quilt. "Papa says Mama would want you warm." Caroline took it, fingers brushing the careful stitches of a woman 3 years dead. Tears came sudden in strange grief for a woman she'd never met. Gratitude for children who knew how to be kind. "Thank you," she whispered again. meaning something bigger than words could hold. Grant nodded once. "Welcome to our home, Mrs. Brennan." It was the first time in 6 months anyone had made her feel welcome anywhere. Dawn came brutal and cold. Caroline woke to the sound of an axe biting wood through the frosted window. She saw Grant splitting logs with the mechanical rhythm of a man who'd done this 10,000 times. Tommy stacked the pieces. Lily Ann carried kindling. A family that worked together. Caroline had never seen such a thing. She dressed in borrowed clothes, simple wool that didn't know the word fashion, and went outside. Her breath clouded white. "I want to help," she said. Grant looked at her soft hands, her uncertain stance. "You sure?" "No, but I want to be—" He handed her the axe. "Grip here. Swing from the shoulder, not the arms. Let the weight do the work." She tried. Failed. The axe bounced off the log, jarring her shoulders. "Again," Grant said. She tried again. And again. Blisters formed. She kept going. By noon, she'd split 5 logs. Her hands bled. Her back screamed. She'd never felt more alive. "Why didn't you remarry?" she asked, stacking her hard-won wood. Grant was quiet a long time. "I loved once. That's more than most get. Figured I'd honor her memory by raising our children right, not by replacing her." "Did you love her? More than breathing?" He glanced at her. "You ever love your husband?" "No. I thought I should. I thought that's what marriage was. It ain't. Not when it's real." The truth sat between them like something living. A rider came up the road fast and deliberate. Grant's hand moved to the rifle by the door before Caroline even registered the threat. The man was lean, cold-eyed. "Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Kent sent me to bring you home." "She's under my roof," Grant said, stepping between them. "That makes her my concern." "This ain't your fight, McCoy. It is now." The hired man, Jed Murphy. Caroline realized measured Grant with the eyes of someone paid to hurt people. Whatever he saw made him pull his horse back. "Town'll hear about this," Jed said. "Rich widow and a dirt-poor widower folks will talk. Let them." Jed rode off. Grant didn't lower the rifle until dust settled. Caroline's hands shook. "I should leave. I'm putting you in danger." "Danger was always there, ma'am. Question is whether we face it together or die separate." Tommy and Lily Ann stood in the doorway, small and solemn. "We vote together," Tommy said. "You're one of us now." Lily Ann ran inside, came back with an apron faded blue, carefully mended. "This was Mama's. She'd want you to have it." Caroline took it like the treasure it was. A dead woman's blessing, a living family's acceptance. "Thank you," she said, for the 3rd time in 2 days, and wondered how she'd lived so long without meaning it. Clearwater wasn't much a general store, a church, a handful of buildings pretending to be a town, but it had eyes and tongues. Grant rode beside Caroline through the main street. Whispers followed like flies on honey. "That's her, the rich widow. Here she's staying with McCoy. Ain't proper. Man can't even read. What's he think he's doing?" Caroline kept her chin up, the way her mother had taught her. Grant kept his hand near his rifle, the way the frontier had taught him. The shopkeeper refused them service. Can't be selling to folks of questionable character. Grant's jaw tightened. He'd known this man 15 years. "Then sell to me," Grant said, laying coins on the counter, "and I'll share with who I please." He bought flour, sugar, coffee, outside. He split the goods publicly, handing half to Caroline. The message was clear: what's mine is hers. A woman approached the school teacher, Ada Harper, who'd lost her voice to scarlet fever as a child. She wrote on a slate, "Judge Hart's, not Station's. I'll testify for you." Caroline's throat closed. "Thank you." Ada smiled. wrote again. You're teaching his children to read better. He's teaching you to survive. That's marriage without the vows. They rode home in silence, but it was the comfortable kind. That evening, Caroline taught Tommy to parse complex sentences while Grant taught her to read animal tracks in snow. Lily Ann drew pictures of them all together, stick figures holding hands. I never learned to read proper, Grant admitted, struggling with a livestock contract. My wife was teaching me when she died. Caroline read it aloud, slowly, without judgment. This contract's trying to cheat you. See here, they want first pick of calves, but won't guarantee payment. Grant's shoulders relaxed. I knew something felt wrong. I'll teach you letters, Caroline said. You teach me how to survive out here. Deal, Grant said, and they shook hands like partners. That night, riding home under cold stars, Caroline said, I've never felt less alone. Grant looked at her, really looked, for the first time. That's what home does, ma'am. Makes loneliness a memory. She wanted to tell him to call her Caroline. Instead, she smiled and tucked the words away for when courage came easier. The blizzard hit on the third day, the way bad things often wait until you've just started hoping. For 72 hours, the world was white howling fury. Grant nailed shutters tight. Tommy and Lily Ann played quiet games by firelight. Caroline cooked with supplies they had, stretching meals the way necessity teaches. The cabin shrank to just the four of them. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to pretend. By candlelight, Caroline taught Grant to write his name. He gripped the pencil like an axe handle, tongue between his teeth in concentration. Each letter was a victory. You're smart, Caroline said. School failed you. You didn't fail school. My pa needed me working, Grant said. Never regretted it till Mary died and I couldn't read her letters. She wrote you letters during our courtship. Kept them all in a tin. Can't read a word. His voice cracked. Reckon I never will. You'll read them, Caroline said. I promise. Yet on the second night, Lily Ann woke with fever scarlet flush, breathing labored. Grant paced like a caged animal while Caroline sat vigil, cooling the girl's forehead with snowmelt, humming lullabies from a childhood she'd tried to forget. At 3 a.m, Grant found her still there, head bowed, tears on her cheeks. You don't have to, he whispered. Yes, I do. Why? Because she's yours. And you've been kinder to me than anyone with my blood ever was. The fever broke at dawn. Lily Ann opened her eyes, whispered. You stayed. Caroline kissed her forehead. Of course I stayed. Grant watched from the doorway, something shifting in his chest that he'd thought died with Mary. Not replacement, not forgetting, just room for something new. That evening, when the children slept, Caroline and Grant sat by the fire. The storm raged, but felt distant. I'm afraid, Caroline admitted. Afraid if I let myself love this you, them. This life I'll lose it. Grant took her hand. First intentional touch between them. Fear's just love turned backward. Caroline. Loving means risking loss, but not loving that's losing already. She didn't pull away. They sat like that until the fire burned low. Two people learning that home isn't a place, it's a presence. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, something quieter bloomed. Christmas Eve came cold and clear. Warren Kent arrived in Clearwater with a sheriff, a doctor's letter, and enough witnesses to make his lie look like truth. The courthouse filled. Half the town came to watch Caroline Brennan declared unfit. Entertainment was scarce in winter. Grant stood beside her. Out of place in his work clothes among Warren's tailored suit and hired lawyers, Tommy and Lily Ann clung to Ada Harper, who'd closed school to bear witness. Warren was everything Grant wasn't: educated, wealthy, comfortable in rooms where money made the rules. He presented his case with practiced ease. My brother's widow, Warren said, has abandoned her responsibilities. She's given away valuables to strangers, fled her home, taken up residence with, he gestured dismissively at Grant, an illiterate laborer and his children. This is not the behavior of a sound mind. Travis Dunn took the stand the town drunk Warren had paid or threatened. She gave an expensive apron to a child, donated her jewelry to the schoolhouse. Rambling talk about being lost. The murmurs spread like disease. Grant's hands fisted. Ada touched his arm, shook her head. Not yet. The judge old, tired, bought sighed. Mrs. Brennan, these are serious claims. Caroline stood. Grant started to rise with her. She touched his shoulder gently. Stay. I gave an apron to a child because it belonged to her mother. Caroline said, I donated jewelry because children need books more than I need ornaments. I said I was lost because I was until a good man offered me direction. A good man. Warren laughed. He can't write his own name. What wisdom could he possibly offer? Grant's chair scraped back. Judge her, judge me. Every eye turned to him. I can't read fancy law, Grant said, voice rough with suppressed rage. But I know goodness when I see it. This woman nursed my daughter through fever, taught my son kindness ain't weakness, chopped wood till her hands bled, that unsound, then every decent soul in this territory is guilty. The courtroom went silent. Warren smiled coldly. Very touching. But the law requires witnesses to her stability, and you, Mr. McCoy, are hardly impartial. Then ask the children. Grant said, Ask Ada. Ask anyone who's seen her do more than spend money. But the judge was already shaking his head. The law is clear. Mrs. Brennan must return to her estate for evaluation, or forfeit her property. Caroline saw Grant's face fury and helplessness warring. She couldn't let him suffer for her. I'll go, she said. Caroline. I'll go. She looked at him, memorizing his face. You gave me home, Grant. That's worth more than any land. Warren's men stepped forward. Caroline walked between them with her head high, at the door. Her compass, still in her pocket from that first night, slipped out. Hit the floor. Grant picked it up, watched her disappear into snow and shame. Tommy gripped his hand. Will she come back? Grant stared at the compass metal and glass and broken promises. I don't know. Son. I surely don't know. 3 days Grant sat at that table, compass in hand, unable to work. The children tiptoed around his grief like mourners. The cabin felt wrong without Caroline's presence, no humming while she cooked. No laughter at Tommy's jokes. No gentle corrections to Lily Ann's reading. Tommy found him in the barn, head in his hands. Did we do something wrong? Papa. Grant pulled his son close. No, we did everything right. Sometimes right don't win. But then Ada Harper came riding hard through melting snow. A letter clutched in her mittened hand. Grant couldn't read it. Tommy could. The boy's voice shook as he read aloud, Grant Warren locked me in the study with all my books. I've never felt more alone. You taught me that wealth is what you build with your hands, and who you shelter with your heart. If you can forgive a foolish woman who learned too late, come for me, not to save me, to stand with me. I'm not lost anymore. I'm waiting. Caroline. Grant stood so fast the chair toppled. We ride, he said. Papa, it's just us, Tommy said. No, it ain't. Ada wrote on her slate. I'll come. Martha and Henry Doyle, the elderly couple who'd lost 3 sons to war, appeared at the door. We'll come too. Even Travis Dunn showed up, hat in hand, eyes red. I testified against her because Warren threatened my family. I can't live with that shame. Let me make it right. By dawn, 7 riders stood ready. Grant practiced writing Caroline's name in the snow with a stick. His first written words were Caroline and love. Tommy watched, eyes wide. Mama would be proud of you. Papa, Grant mounted up. I can't promise this ends well, but I promise we stand for something true. Ada wrote, that's all any of us can do. They rode toward Caroline's estate, toward a fight they might not win, toward the only kind of courage that matters, the kind that shows up anyway. Grant carried the compass. She said she was lost. Time I helped her find her way. Behind them. The cabin stood empty but not abandoned. Smoke still rose from the chimney. Home was waiting. They just had to bring her back to it. Caroline's estate rose like a monument to money, 3 stories of painted wood and empty rooms. Warren had summoned half the territory to witness his final victory. Grant's small band rode up the main road. 7 people against a crowd. 7 people who believed right mattered more than numbers. Warren blocked the entrance with hired men. You're trespassing, McCoy. I'm here for Caroline. She's where she belongs, under proper supervision. Warren waved papers. Legal commitment, signed by a doctor. The crowd murmured. Grant saw their doubt. These were good people, mostly, who'd been told a story and believed it because believing was easier than questioning. The sheriff stepped forward, reluctant but pressured. Got to respect the law. Grant, even when the law's a lie. Movement at the 2nd-story window. Caroline stood there, watching, seeing him, seeing all of them who'd come. She smiled, not the careful smile of society, but the real one she'd learned splitting wood in snow. Then she unlocked the window from inside and climbed out. The crowd gasped. A lady didn't do that. A sane woman didn't do that. But Caroline wasn't interested in being a lady anymore. She dropped to the porch roof, then to the ground, landing in her work boots and borrowed dress. She walked through Warren's men like they weren't there and stood beside Grant. I'm signing the estate over, she said, voice carrying clear. To the town, for a school and orphanage. Warren went white. You can't. I already did. She produced papers from her bodice, pre-written. Signed, witnessed by her imprisoned servants. Last night. It's done. She's insane, Warren shouted to the crowd. Throwing away a fortune. No. Caroline said, I'm keeping what matters. She took Grant's hand. His work-roughened fingers wrapped around hers like a promise. Ada held up her slate, Love Wins. The crowd moved by courage, by sacrifice, by the simple truth of 2 people choosing each other over comfort, began to applaud. The sheriff looked at Warren's forged papers, then at Caroline's legitimate deed. Can't enforce a lie. Warren, best you leave. Warren's face twisted with rage and defeat. He climbed into his carriage and fled, taking his hired men with him. The crowd pressed close, questions flying. But Grant led Caroline away from noise, toward horses, toward home. You came. She whispered. You asked me to. I love you. Simple. True. Terrifying. Grant stopped, turned her to face him. I loved my wife. She'll always be part of me. But there's room in this heart for you too. Caroline, if you'll have a man who's still learning to write your name. She kissed him then in front of God and the territory and everyone who doubted. When they broke apart, Tommy and Lily Ann were crying, happy tears this time. Snow began to fall soft, clean, promising spring beneath. They rode home together, all of them. A family built from broken pieces made whole. Spring came gentle that year. The wedding was simple, held at Grant's ranch, now expanded with community help. Caroline wore the apron Lily Ann had given her and a dress she'd sewn herself. Grant wore a clean shirt Caroline had made, buttons she'd taught him to fasten. Ada Harper conducted the ceremony in writing and sign language, each gesture deliberate and holy. Grant spoke his vows slowly. Reading from paper, Tommy had helped him write, I promise to build with you, work beside you, stay when storms come. Caroline's voice didn't shake. I promise to love your children as my own. Honor your late wife's memory. Choose you every day. Not once. They exchanged no rings, just calloused hands clasping tight. The town came, all of them, even those who doubted. They brought food, well wishes, forgiveness asked and given. The new schoolhouse stood on the hill, built with Caroline's money and the town's labor. Children from the orphanage played with Tommy and Lily Ann, all of them learning that family was something you built, not inherited. After the celebration, Caroline and Grant walked to their small garden. She planted wildflowers color against the raw earth. He helped dig. Their hands moving in rhythm, learned through shared work. The compass sat on the mantel now, decorative. She didn't need it anymore. Inside, Tommy read aloud from a book while Grant followed along, lips moving with each word. Lily Ann drew pictures of their expanded family stick figures holding hands, a house with smoke rising, hearts everywhere, as the sun set. Grant pulled Caroline close. They stood watching light fade over land they'd worked together, children they'd raised together, a life they'd build one honest day at a time. I spent years lost in a mansion, Caroline said. Took a cowboy and a winter storm to find my way home. Grant kissed her temple. Home ain't a place, Caroline. It's who walks beside you when the trail gets hard. She leaned into him. Then I'm home. Finally. Truly home. Behind them, the cabin glowed warm. Children's laughter carried on spring wind. Smoke rose from the chimney like answered prayer. Some folks search the world for treasure. The wise ones know it's who you come home to when the searching's done. Grant and Caroline had found each other in the wilderness. They'd built home from broken pieces and courage and love that chose to stay. That was wealth enough for any lifetime. That was everything. The end.